Was there ever a time in your life where you felt like nothing was just going right, and then all of a sudden it just got worse? Today, I'm going to be talking to you about our basement disaster that really was the most expensive expense that we did not expect when we moved into this house. If you don't know already, my name is Gabby Maxino. I'm your mom, friend in real estate here in the New Jersey suburbs. My goal with this channel is to be your #1 resource when it comes to all things moving in New Jersey. And if you're looking to move, I'd love to be the agent you choose to work with. Feel free to schedule a meeting on my link below or send me an email at gabbym@kw.com. If you've been following along, then you know how we bought our house, what our first year was like being new homeowners with a new baby, and the small upgrades that we did in our home that made the biggest impact. Today is going to be a little bit more of just a story time. This happened a couple of months ago, so just a little less than a year. What started as some minor dampness in our basement turned into, honestly, a black mold disaster that we did not expect. I'm going to share exactly what happened, how much everything cost, how we vetted contractors, how we handled it, and what you should definitely look out for if you are looking to buy a home, especially as first-time home buyers. For the first 3 years of us owning this home, we did notice that there was a lot of dampness in the basement. So the crazy thing is, whenever it rained a lot, we never really got a lot of water. It's not like it ever flooded in the basement. There was only one time, maybe twice, where there was water that's about this much from the floor. And the scary part about it was when we had a tenant that was living with us temporarily in our basement, because we did have a small room here that we rented out a few months out of the year temporarily, just because we knew people who needed a place to stay. And I remember that happened probably about 2 years into us living into this house. So at first, we simply handled it with just dehumidifiers. And actually, when we toured it for the first time, we did notice that there were at least 2 or 3 dehumidifiers in the basement. But to be honest, I didn't think too much of it because I'm used to seeing dehumidifiers in the basement. But that should have been a big sign right away that there were some dampness in the basement. But note that just because there are dehumidifiers in the basement doesn't necessarily mean that there's a big water issue. I would still look at bigger signs. I think the hardest part with our house was the contractors recently upgraded the basement. You don't know if something that was just done was repaired or simply cosmetically changed to make sure it looks nice. It's hard to look for signs when everything is finished in the basement. Obviously, we love the house because the fact that it has a finished basement, which added a lot of square footage, but we were not able to inspect it as well. At first, we simply handled it by just using dehumidifiers and unclogging our gutters, doing some grading around the house to see if that was gonna help, because we knew that there was no French drain or sump pump in our house, and that was gonna cost a lot of money. It was fine for a long time, but then we had another tenant move into the house, and he was also only supposed to be here temporarily, but he had a lot of things. So that meant that we had to store more stuff in the basement, and we ended up putting all of our stuff along the walls of our finished basement, and we were just gonna put it back in the room once he moves out. When he finally moves out, we felt that there really wasn't anything too serious that we found, and he never really said anything, so we thought everything was fine. But when we took all of our things from the wall, especially the wall that was behind our bathroom, oh my God, it was the scariest sight I've ever seen. It was clear mold. We didn't even have to test it. I knew it was mold, and it was all along the walls. So the first thing my husband did, luckily he's a contractor and is a carpenter in the union, he cut all the sheetrock to see what's going on. We decided that we had to get waterproofing companies to come, see what's going on. At least it was going to cut the cost because he can do the sheetrock work. So the only thing they have to do is the drainage part. We initially had to contact 3 different contractors, waterproofing companies. They all had similar solutions, which is to add sump pumps in the basement and French drain, but the cost varied a lot. We had a company just for the French drain alone, they were trying to estimate $30,000, and we're like, no, We are not doing it with them. And then we found another company that was a little cheaper, $20,000. But essentially though, we ended up finding a family-owned company that's been in the business for years and years. It's a local company, and they ended up giving us a quote of, I think it was $12,000 if we paid in cash. So that definitely cut down the cost, especially because that was just for the French drain and the sump pumps. That did not include actually closing everything up and paint, putting sheetrock back. And also, we found out that there was water coming in our electrical panel. So we had to change that as well. And while we're at it, since they also had to open up the whole bathroom, we essentially also renovated our bathroom. So in total, we spent almost $20,000 renovating a basement that was already renovated in the first place. Of course, there were some things that changed because we completely redesigned our basement bathroom and it just looks a lot nicer now, but technically it was already finished to begin with when we bought the house. So that was the most annoying part, because we still had other projects that we wanted to do to add on to our house that we never got the chance to do because we ended up spending it on the basement. We ended up finding out the majority of what happened, on top of us not having drainage system and having a lot of humidity in our basement, was apparently our sewer line that goes to the septic is a little bit higher up than the basement floor. So if this is our basement floor, this is our septic line, which meant that anything that comes from the bottom has to be pumped up in order for it to get pushed in through the system. I hope I'm explaining this correctly. Apparently, the toilet pump was not working correctly, which meant that every time we flushed the toilet there, it wasn't pumping correctly to the line. So all the water was accumulating here in this area. And every time our tenant used the shower, it also wasn't pumping up. So it kept accumulating, and that's why there was all that water issue that was happening behind the wall of our bathroom. When we renovated the bathroom, we essentially just removed that pump and we ended up installing just another sump pump underground. We ended up installing 3 sump pump and French drain all around the perimeter of our whole house. And that cost us $20,000. This whole experience really was a hard lesson in what it really means to actually be a homeowner. Here are a few things that you can take away from this story. While it is inevitable for surprises to come along, especially when you're a homeowner, it's important that number one, you have emergency funds for certain things that you can't control. Whether it's drainage problems, an old heater finally failing, roof, there's so many things that can happen when you own a home. It's important for you to just have some sort of savings so that you have something to fall back on when something like this unexpectedly happens. Number two, don't ignore any small signs. So when you see something that you think is wrong, especially before you even buy the house, I would definitely make sure to ask your home inspector if this is something that you should be worried about. And if he recommends to get it further evaluated by a contractor, do it. Depending on how big the issue is, you may have the right to negotiate this and get something for it. Either get it repaired or get a credit. If the sellers don't end up giving you a credit or repairing the issue, at least it's something that's on the list of what you should expect to eventually have to repair versus it being an unexpected thing. And number three, always compare quotes when it comes to contractors. Don't just use the first one that you find and ask for referral. I personally would probably reach out to your real estate agent who helped you buy the house, more than likely because they are in and out of homes. They have a lot of vendors that can potentially help you based on that issue that you need to get resolved. Or if it's not your real estate agent, ask other homeowners, your neighbors, friends, family, and see if there is a way for you to find a great contractor that you can trust who can also give you a fair estimate. A lot of contractors, especially nowadays in this market with inflation, just is expensive doing the same amount of work. And that's it for me today. I hope that this doesn't scare you too much, but just gives you an idea of what it's like to actually be be a homeowner. And if you take anything from this, it's to make sure to take care of things that you thought was small before they turn into something major, especially with basement. Have you ever had a surprise like this? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know your stories. And if you are currently dealing with an issue, I'd love to possibly help you. If I have a vendor that I trust that you can at least compare quotes for. If you've been enjoying my homeowner series so far, I have the last episode coming to you next week. To make sure you don't miss it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, click the thumbs up, and ring the notification bell. See you guys in the next one. Bye.